forget to subscribe or give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Undimo, for another episode. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. And our topic today is the impact of Ruto-Raila Handshake on Kenya's quest for effective leadership. It is the two opposing groups, the opposition and the government. Now they are in bed together. I don't know, but your understanding first. Where is opposition now? Who is opposition in Kenya and who is government? What's your understanding now with the Raila Handshake?
Yeah, thank you again for inviting me to the studio. The question of who is in government and who is the opposition really is top of the mind for most of the Kenyans as we speak. For many years, we known Raila Odinga to be the head of the opposition.
Yeah.
Now, with him recently tiptoeing to be part of the government, because earlier on when he sent his lieutenants and troops in the gaze of helping stabilize the government, the debut the debut of I think they were the debut leaders of ODM, moving on to be the part of the cabinet last year. We knew essentially that he was part of that scheme, and he was just testing the waters to see how Kenyans are reacting.
Yeah.
So essentially, the head of the opposition is currently part of the government. So
and now, where does Kenya remain now? Do we have opposition?
We're back to square one, where we were during the Kenyatta administration, especially the last 5 years of the Kenyatta administration, where there was no opposition. Everybody was in government at the time. And we saw how that went. The government was not in check. Everything went down the hill. And that's how Dr. Ruto came to win the presidency, because he essentially he was part of government, yet part of the opposition. And he was able to win the narrative of who actually is the opposition. At the end of the day, he won because he appeared to be the person in the opposition.
So this is why we are asking, and we have to go back. We had protests. The Gen Zs came up, and they were demanding effective leadership because things were not going well in Kenya. And you saw that, and you saw like the Gen Zs, they were saying impunity and the corruption are the cause of young Kenyans vary. You saw that. People agitated that they really wanted, and we saw like the way they came up, it was so violent. You saw people go to parliament. They were okay. Things were coming okay. Where are we on the demands and the sweet talk to the Gen Zs that it was going to bring change, it was going to end corruption? Where are we on that? Now that from there I came with a broad-based government, and then everything, what up now?
You know, for many years, I have admired the approach that Tinga, or the former prime minister, has given in terms of politics. He has always put the government in power in check. And his word actually was very well listened to. But over time, he has now come to repeat the same way, same approach over and over again. And it's my realization and my own opinion that him joining the government every time there is what they describe as unstable government. Yes, we know when the government in power is not performing and people are putting pressure on it and they are holding it accountable, that government is going to be appearing to be unstable. it doesn't mean that you have to jump ship, abandon your responsibility as the opposition and join the government. I'll give you an example. In the north of us, where we are at now, the government of Justin Trudeau became so unpopular.
Yeah.
He knows he's not going to learn and win. So he's changing the tact by bringing in new leadership to the government to proceed. The opposition has not joined him. So for the opposition in Kenya to join government is very disingenuous, in my opinion. The reason why opposition exists, they are a government in waiting. But for them to jump ship and go into a government and then abandon their responsibility, in my opinion, is not the best way to go.
So can we say like Baba has failed the Gen Zs? Can we say that?
I think in the first place, we can say, was he part of the Gen Z in the first place?
No, the Gen Zs, told him to stay home. Baba, you have done your part. Leave us alone. You stay home. That's what they told him.
In my opinion, here is where I'm heading to. He was never part of the equation when the Gen Zs came up.
Yeah.
The Gen Zs really came up when they realized the government is not put into pressure. The opposition was failing them. Because that's where I'm reading to. So I will not say he has failed the Gen Zs. What I would say is the Gen Zs should now look for a different tact and sweep and still continue putting that same government, because it's the same government, only that additional people have come in to put the same government in check. Because the Gen Zs said they are partyless, they are tribalist, they are leaderless. So in my opinion, they should continue with their tact and be partyless, leaderless, and put the government in check. So for us to be hoodwinked, to believe that Honorable Raila has failed them, no, he wasn't part of them in the first place. So he has not. That's my answer.
But the Gen Zs felt that they were building on what Raila had done, because after the election, he's the one who started demonstrating on the streets about cost of living and other things. Raila went to the streets. And then when things didn't work, when the Gen Zs came, they said, "Now this is you sit at home." But immediately the Gen Zs went to the streets, and they were almost going to that canony. They were marching even to State House. Then came the broad-based government. Raila comes in, joins now the opposition, which was actually supporting even the Gen Zs who are agitating things for them in parliament. All of a sudden, the tune changed. The tune changed. Now we are in a broad-based government. And you know very well that John Mbati and Wandani were the focal critics in parliament. They went to the cabinet. And everything changed.
I see where you are coming from, and I do agree to that extent. But I still want to go back to, how did the Gen Zs come to be? Were they in any way organized by the opposition?
No, they weren't. But they could have.
Were they given any direction?
They could have benefited with the Raila not joining the government and sitting back at home so that they finish their job.
And this is where Dr. Ruto actually warned not just the chances. He kind of diverted by bringing in something else, appearing to be fixing a band-aid, if you will.
It was a band-aid, a single loop planning.
Yes, it's a band-aid to fix the issues that were being agitated for by the chances. So the fact that those things are not being fixed, the fact that you're bringing in additional people to the government and you're not really fixing the root cause of the chancy movement, then I think it's just a pause. It's a pause. So the chancy movement will still continue to march, in my opinion, and they should look up and say, you know what? We are on our own. Let's keep on going on. So I'll say this. We cannot blame or begrudge Raila for doing what he did, because he was never part of the chancy movement in the first place.
But indeed, what don't you see on your end? Did he not put water on the movement of the Gen Zs? You know, the Gen Zs, and I want you to First of all, listen to this clip, how the Gen Zs were bitter.
Mutatufanyia nini? Unaona huyo Sudi mwenye ameenda akiona Eldoret ni kama ni jikoni ya kwake, akitreat watu vibaya, na ameweka car wash, ameweka bar, whatever the hell alikuwa ameweka hapo, sijui. I've never been to hiyo place. I am sorry. I am boiling with anger. Watu wanafaa kukasirika. Unasikianga mtu, tumefika place, I'm sorry, na wind down. Kuna mtu alikuwa anasema ati hii Kenya siku hizi masomo haimata. Masomo inafaa kumata. Do you think hawa watu wana graduating vitabu ni mchezo? And then they come and see msichana amepatia deputy president nickname, na apparently amefika mahali hata anaweza nunua gari. Ananunua gari ni kuflaunt Instagram, then kuna watu waezi lisha watoto. Watu waezi lisha watoto na wame
Bitterness, which was with the Gen Zs that time, and you will hear what they are talking. And then Raila comes in and then forms a pact with the very government the Gen Zs wanted to remove, and the things from that time has changed. Even some of the Gen Zs who are there now, you have not seen in Kisumu the Gen Zs rising up because they say now they are in government. So don't you think Raila failed the Gen Zs in their quest for effective leadership in Kenya? Geoffrey Chui, karibu.
Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Yeah. Yeah, join the Dr. Nimu answer as he is preparing.
So here is my take.
Yeah.
Did he fail them? The answer is no, because this is what exactly he has done over the years. Disrupt the government, make it seem it's unstable, ungovernable, and then join the government. 5 times he has done it. So for Gen Zs to be successful, I think he did pause them. He did not. If you use maybe semantics here, if you can use the term he let them down, I think Raila has done this before. So there were no chances when he did this in 2018 when he had a handshake. There were no chances in 1997 when he joined the former president, the late Daniel Arap Moi.
That Gen Zs were born that time.
Yeah. So to say that he failed them, I think is missing the bigger picture, in my opinion. It might appear like he's failing them, but this is who Raila has been for over the years. So he's being who he has been. And therefore, for me to say that he has failed them is missing that bigger picture. That's why I'm saying no. The chances must look for a tact and act and continue agitating for what they have been agitating for.
Okay. Jeffrey, welcome. What is your take on that?
I would tend to agree with Dr. Ndimo. I don't think Raila has actually failed Gen Zs, or for that reason failed anybody. My opinion is that Raila, if you look at his history in politics and all the work that he has done to bring Kenya to where we are, of course, there's other players who are part of that process, but Raila has been on the forefront. I think Raila has done a good job. He has done a wonderful job, and I think as I like to say it, is he's the ultimate statesman of any country can want. And here's why I'm saying that. If you look at where we are now in Kenya as a democracy, all the free press we have compared to other African countries, the way we are able to express ourselves as Kenyans compared to other African countries, he has made that possible for us to be able to even have this discussion here in a way that makes sense. On the other hand, running a country is a big task, and running a country is not about just fighting the leadership all the time. It's about creating a space where business thrive, where people talk freely, and where you're able to at least push for some form of reforms to push the country forward. But Raila cannot do it alone. Raila needs help, and I think Gen Zs show that they can come in and actually make a difference. but that process also has to be looked at a little bit different. Number one, to make sure the country is stable, even as we push for reforms, but also to make sure that someone else other than Raila steps up.
Okay. Geoffrey, your voice, you may want to see your some settings. They are a bit lower, so your voice is not coming out very squarely. But one of the things Gen Zs were fighting for in the quest for their effective leadership was to fight corruption. Now, corruption right now, you know, they even mentioned the other people, how they were flashing money like Sudi and other things, how corruption was in the system. They wanted that fought. How are we going to fight corruption? The majority leader is in the government and the minority leader, both of them are in the government, who are supposed to do that. And even Junet Mohammed, who has been very vocal about that. And I would want you to listen to the clip now, was condemning the, is this fighting corruption?
She has not told that committee that the matter has not yet been verified by the committee of the House, Mr. Speaker, because the committee of the House is the arbiter on that matter. The public servant who has been accused of malpractice and the Auditor General, who is the prosecutor, appear before the committee of the House, and everyone brings his or her document before the committee of the House. Unless we have changed our rules, unless we have changed our laws on auditing, Mr. Speaker, that is the position as far as I'm concerned. Now, Mr. Speaker, any audit report is a confirmed report before it is audited, before it is brought before the House. Mr. Speaker, that culture will lead to anarchy. That culture will lead to people's names being destroyed, Mr. Speaker, without any recourse. Mr. Speaker, why the civil servants are being given an opportunity to explain what the Auditor General has reported is because they might have been delaying submission of documents.
Now, the thing is, Junet Mohammed is the minority leader who's opposition. They say he's the one who's supposed to be representing the voice of the opposition. They are now condemning the control budget in parliament for citing some things which were not done right. Now, instead of the control budget is citing how corruption has been done. Junet Mohammed, as in opposition, is supposed to be in line to fight corruption, but now he's in bed with the government. How then are we going to achieve effective leadership in fighting corruption when actually the opposition and the government are in bed together?
You know, Ariel, and I want to have Chewy there, my friend, will beg to disagree at some point with how Honorable Raila has done his politics every time for those 5 years. We cannot take away what he has done in Kenya. We can't take that away from him. We give him kudos. But there are some areas when it comes to the tipping point, when Kenya is about to get to that canony, he switches off the rights and then goes back into the same dark room with the same wolves. And that's where really I walk and disagree with how he approaches the final tail end of getting into canony. He has done a lot, yes, but every time there is really about change to come, when we see now there is going to be about a change, they bring in excuses like the one that I saw that the military was going to, a military coup was going to be there, or something like that. You know, when a government is put on its corner, they need to change. All they need to do is change. Now he has given them cover, and you saw the President William Ruto was very rude, doing exactly what he said he will not do, giving money in churches. You know who gave him that power? Your guess is as good as mine. So that's where we say that he has actually not felt 10 seats. The people who have supported him over and over and over again, he's been the trumpet, he's been the voice of the Kenyans. So when he says something, Kenyans have said it. They made the president to say that no more fundraisings in churches. No more, no more, no more. Then now, most recently, he's very rudely doing it on people's, it's like, Mtaduni, because of who? because he has Tinga behind it. And that's exactly where we think, and I think I beg to humbly disagree that Kenyans are not with him in that end.
And I will agree with you, but maybe let me just rephrase what the point I was trying to make. The clarity I was trying to make was that I think Raila has done good up to the point where we are right now. But for us to have any serious reforms and still have a country that we can still call a country, there have to be a way on how that has to be done. Kenyans have allowed Raila or the president to be where they are because we have enabled them to do what they do up to a point where now if Raila is not there, then nothing happens. I think that time has come to an end. The Gen Z showed that there's a need for a different kind of leadership, but someone has to step up. We have to take a different direction. Raila has done what he has done up to the point, but Kenyans have to step up and take the mantle from him and bring something else. That's why I think someone like Kebaso, Morara Kebaso, he's young, inexperienced, but if you look closely at what he's trying to do and what he's trying to say, he actually espouses what a lot of Kenyans are thinking, but a lot of them are afraid to step up and actually say that. So someone like Kebaso should be supported at all costs, because what he's trying to do is basically trying to inform the common mwananchi about that if you want a good working government, then you have to be part of that process. There's a saying that I like saying that if you want quality leadership, then we have to be quality citizens, meaning that the leaders we elect are a direct representation of who we are. So if we put, for example, President Ruto was elected. He was elected by a majority of Kenyans per the last election polls. People disagree with that, but as of right now, he's the president. And as long as he's the president, we have to find a ways to support him on areas where we agree, and of course push back on areas where we don't agree. But all that has to be done with the mindset that we still have a country to run. Things have to continue working. But then how do we do that in a way that, number one, moves us forward as a country, and number two, brings us closer to the reforms that we are looking at. So my point basically is that I think Raila has served as well, and I think he has the best interest of the country in terms of the move that he made to join Ruto in creating that the government that we have. Some people will not like it, but in terms of trying to keep the country stable, I think that was a good thing to do. Do we all agree on that? Probably not. But is there more to be done going forward? Yes.
Mr. Joy.
Yes.
Kenya was not at war. I don't know what, this is some of the things we put a band-aid on. Let us not just run on fear. And I've asked a good question. How do we fight corruption when the same people who are supposed to be watchdogs, now they are with the people who are doing that corruption? That's a big question we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah, and honestly, Kenya was not at war with anybody else. Kenya was not unstable, especially at the most recent time when he had to sign a memorandum of understanding. He will do exact same thing that he's doing right now by being outside of government, by holding that same government accountable.
Yeah.
Honestly, if he holds that government accountable, tell you what, the same government that he's saying that he's step-rising will work so hard to be accountable so that they win an election, so that they step-rise the country.
Yeah.
If they become accountable, there is less corruption. When there's less corruption, people will find their jobs. People will get service. People will get the products they need in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way they can step-rise this country is not by joining them. It's by holding them accountable. And holding them accountable is saying, where's the government service? Why can't you give us the service? And governments exist to give service to the people.
Yeah.
That's all the people Kenyans are asking. So when he joins the government, and the same government now does not give service to the people, how stable is that stable now?
Mm-hmm.
How stable is it?
No, I get the point, but the question is, why should we wait for Raila to hold the government accountable? Why can't we as citizens do that instead? So I think the crux of the matter is, I think we are depending too much on Raila to make the change that we ourselves can actually do and make that change. And as long as we are in that mindset that unless Raila does this or that, then nothing happens, then we all lose. And I think the time has come now that we have to look at other options, other ways of seeing how does Kenya move forward with different leadership that has a different mindset, that really wants to move this country forward in a way that we think will benefit everybody.
I agree with. I agree. I actually agree with you, Chui, to that extent. And before you join the conversation, that's exactly what I was saying. That Raila cannot be blamed in any way, shape, or form to have stopped the chances, because chances were never there in 1997. They were never there in 2007. They were never there in 2018. Now they are here.
You are missing the point here. Raila was the leader of Azimio, which became official opposition in parliament. So you can't say he should run from that responsibility. Even if he did not become a president, he's the leader of the opposition, which is supposed to check the government. So why are you trying to exonerate him from that duty?
No,
what he have done is to resign as a party leader and choose a different person. But now he has moved with his members to the government.
And I mean, I'm not exonerating anybody from anything. All I'm saying is that there's different approaches to get to canon, if you will. Okay, one of them is through what other people are saying is Raila should be the opposition and fight until the end, or from what I'm seeing, make small steps by partnering with the government, even if he doesn't agree with it, but at least in a way get some some things done, even though it's not what we want to be done completely, but at least move us somewhere where I think we can see that something is happening, but at the same time keeping the integrity of the country intact. So and it's very, I think a lot of people, I would say, we tend to forget that building something takes time, but destroying it will take a second. And the moment and it's not fear mongering. I won't say it's not fear mongering, but I think it's the reality of things. Politics is a very interesting game, but again, how you strategize and create tactics to move that forward matters. And for the sake of Kenya,
there are pertinent issues like now. We have these issues which have come out about SHA. I mean, where the Auditor General has poked on this issue, how money is being stolen. Now, the people who are supposed to carry that is the opposition, which is now in the government. Then how are we going to fight that corruption? Now, Raila has gone to, who have we remained to fight for that corruption? That's my question I'm asking.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and that question is really great. And that's where, as we mentioned earlier on, that he has somehow put cold water into something that was hot, that was supposed to move Kenya to a different level. And we have seen countries where things have to get worse before they get better. We were at the tipping point in June last year, at the tipping point, just like where we were in 2007, where things had to change. And because of what happened in 2007, and nobody would ever want that to happen, we ended up with a new constitution, which was agitated for many, many decades. Now, what happened in June last year, where the changes were brave enough to do what they did, they took the elite, and I mean the elite, not just the elite in government, the elites, including those in the opposition, they realized the wind of change was sweeping them. And they had to change quickly, tact. And they got now ganged up. And I would say now they are in the same corner against what the change sees. And the changes were not just agitating for themselves. They are agitating what for many ordinary Kenyans have been yearning for many years. So right now, what we have in Kenya is the elites in one single corner against millions of Kenyans who are very desperate. And what is going to happen, my friend Chef, if nothing happens and nothing changes, the crowds are forming. The wind of change can only be slowed down, but cannot be stopped. What has happened in Kenya is, if they have gained against all Kenyans and they are doing what they are doing and they continue to do what they will continue to do, and if there's no change, that same thing that will have happened last year will happen in the future. They just slowed it down. What I believe they should do, if Raila joined the government, plus his troops, who so much of us supported, if they don't make those changes that they gave us as a 10-point resolution and the agreement, then they are going to fail Kenyans. That thing that will have happened will happen in the future.
Okay. Dr. Ndumi, I want to correct you. You cannot compare with what happened 2007 and what was happening last year. 2007 was totally different. It was a stolen election. People were angry and they saw that the election was stolen. People went to the street with anger. Last year, of course, 2007, they died, and then we had a constitution which had given a right to demonstrate, a right to picket. And if they were left to demonstrate according to the constitution without police interference, we could have not had chaos. So that was different. And if that is the fear, what they wanted to march to State House to chase the president out. Many countries have done it. Bangladesh did it. They demonstrated and did it. The prime minister had to leave office. So this idea that the military was going to take over, no. They wanted to take him out and a call for change. So we should not avoid this, trying to hide on fear that the military was going to take over. So that what is more worse, you listen to that clip of Wajensi. He was even ready to die. What does he have to do? Because corruption is seriously killing Kenya. And if we are putting a bandit on the 10 points, those are the bandits. We have had those things anymore. Realistically is that as we are saying, if we want to move forward, let us get the fear card out. I know, Chu, you are having that fear card, and Dr. Nim, you are so leaning to that.
No, I won't say it's a fear card. I will say it's a cautious card, on how we move forward as a country. And I'll say this though. I will say that no one can stop an idea whose time has come. And I think the winds in Kenya right now are telling you that that time has come. President Ruto and Raila himself understand that piece very well. And there's two options. One is, how do we make this change much more manageable? For Raila's point, if I'm not wrong, if he stays in opposition and actually fights the government the way we think he should, that might in itself, of course, make things work or not. But it's more of a risky move. The other piece is, why not partner with the government and push for reforms, in a partnership way that, number one, keeps the country, a little stable, but at least we're getting a few things that we're fighting for.
I want to interject there, my friend here, and also to remind my friend Dr. Mani, what I said about 2007 and 20 last year June was the wind of change. It wasn't about the trigger of the change. It was about change. When change was coming, there was a slowdown on it. It was a change for better for the country. So the triggers are different. So last year the trigger was different from 2007. But nonetheless, the general theme was change. We need change. Change out of corruption, change of on and on and on and on. So back to what you just said, fear, one of the greatest things that really lets everybody down is fear. Being gripped by fear.
Yeah.
And we can always get change without joining government. In fact, if if the opposition would put government on toes, and they appear to be the best government in waiting, and then they win the next general election and be government, I think that's the best way to go, in my opinion. But every time there is a fear of change, then the same opposition joins the government, then we're back to square one. Then how is going to form the next government? The same people, right? So now we don't have a government in waiting.
Exactly. And then now, how is this Ruto-Raila handshake going to affect the outcome of 2027 election? Chui.
I would say that is yet to be seen. If you go by history, I know a lot of folks will say that probably it favors President Ruto in terms of that partnership. But I would say that because Kenya is actually changing, the people's minds are changing. That scenario will probably be different. And right now, I think it's too early to say how that will go. But I would say that it will be an interesting election come 2027.
Okay, Dr. Nim.
Obviously, we cannot underestimate the power that Tinga has in terms of making the direction in which Kenya goes. His necessary, even though he's not in government, and the government in power catches a cold. Now that he has joined Ruto, I'm not seeing him running for presidency again. Because what he did was join President Kenyatta, and he became government, and he lost. He's going to, unfortunately, be part of the change that will come. And my prediction is, once the opposition forms itself, there is a likelihood for the first time in the history of Kenya, in the multi-party era, that the current sitting president can easily be a one-term president.
Okay. I want you to listen to this clip of Raila and tell me what's your take.
Sisi zote to sacrifice. Tumefika pale tuko hapa, sio mahali ambayo tungependa tuwe hapa. Lakini nchi mpaka endelee mbele. Ni sababu zingine tunaweza kusema tushikiliane hapa na pale, tuvuke hapa tungeenda pale ingine. Tuna hakika ya kwamba tutafika pale tunataka kwenda. Ni sababu mimi naambia watu wetu tusimame pamoja, tukae pamoja. Hatua ambayo tumechukua tunayajua. Kunataka kuelekea vile vile tunajua. Kuna wengine ambao wanaambia sisi tuendelee pande hii nyingine, hiyo ni mzuri, lakini nasema bwana, jana wewe ulikuwa unasema sisi ni nyang'au. Leo wewe unatuambia sisi sasa leo tumekuwa malaika. Tumebadilika, kutoka nyang'au tulikuwa malaika namna gani? Kwa hivyo sisi wenyewe hatuwezi kudanganywa. Tunajua pale tunataka kwenda. Naambia watu wetu wasimame imara. Nina hakika tutafika. Nina hakika tutafika. Lakini hatutaki unafiki ya mtu ambaye anasema hapo wewe tumeweka mtego. Mtego. Waswahili husema mtego wa panya ushika waliomo na sio kwemu. Sasa wale ambao waliweka mtego ndio mtego wamewashika. Sisi tutaenda pamoja. Ama sivyo?
Okay. Now, using your, I want you to give your thought and what you think. The take is from Raila's talk there, and based on the 2027 election. What's your take?
I'll say Raila is very strategic. From my experience and knowing how he works, he's very strategic and very practical. the reality is very different when it comes to how politics are run in Kenya. And unless you're practical in how you approach the different scenarios of how Kenya works, you lose. And Raila knows that very well.
Mm.
As when he talked to you, he clearly mentioned, that in summary, from what I saw, is there's different ways to get to Mecca. One is the approach might be different, but
Oh,
the goal is the same.
Is he now
So,
taking us? Is he now taking us to Mecca, not Canaan?
I mean, that was just my way of explaining it.
Okay.
The road to Canaan is not one way. There's different ways to get to Canaan, and I think that's what Raila is doing it in a practical manner that also preserves the integrity of Kenya the way we are, which is way ahead of many African countries, if you ask me.
Okay. Dr. Lim.
He has used again this same approach he used in 2007 when he joined KANU, and he walked away, making a huge win for the opposition for the first time in 2002. If that's the same approach that he's going to give, join the government and then walk away when it comes to the right time, we have seen that happen one time. What we saw when that first elections, which was the most legitimate elections, happened in 2002, Kenya really made strides in terms of development and prosperity between 2002 and by the end of the era of the presidency of Kibaki. So if that is going to happen again in the future, time will tell. Because between now and 2027, these are really almost two and a half years to an election. So many things will change. We don't know we don't know yet, because 2 months even for an election is too long. Here's what I predict will be, as I said, if indeed he sticks with his words, because his words he's on the fence. You never know where he's heading to. Is he going to support Ruto? Is he going to support an opposition candidate? But what I know is one person who will not be president. I really hoped that he was president last time. I know he's not going to run for presidency. It's going to be hard for him to run for presidency again. So the person that will run against Ruto will be that person who will be president.
Now, am I wrong to say from that speech that Raila is charm offensive against his enemies? Because he has clearly said there that those who are calling us to work with them, they were calling us hyenas the other day. And it was actually referring to Gachagua. They said, even Yakaweka Mitego, which of course is true. If you can listen to this clip first.
Nimepanga hiyo ikulu, nimeweka mitego kila kona, kila mahali nimeweka, na niko na watu wa kunipigia simu, wakionekana tu karibu naambiwa, kwa sababu uwezi mtu ameharibu serikali 4 umkubalie akuje ya 5, si ataharibu. Nimesikia watu ya Taita Taveta mnalia mambo.
Okay. So clearly he is more enemy centered. He wants to fight. Even he's going to the government. He wants to break even with his enemies. And with that language, do you think he will join any group where people like Gachagua are? It is sincerely from the top. I want to hear you.
My thoughts are that politics is just politics. We have seen them call each other names, unpalatable names, really bad names, but the following day they are shaking hands and they're calling each other brother. So the answer is as good as you know. It's their interests they're fighting for. Right now, each one of them is fighting for their interests. That's my answer.
Okay. Gee.
And I would tend to agree with Dr. Ndimu. Politics is an interesting game, and in politics you never take anything to heart. If you do, then you lose. 2 years is still a long time. That possibility cannot be talked away. If you look in our history, the current leaders, they have been in government, in opposition, back and forth. It's the same people that we keep recycling, So that possibility might not be far fetched, if that happens, and I won't be surprised. But I think what needs to be done, like I said in the beginning, is that we are at a point now where we have a big chance to actually take Kenya's leadership to a different direction. And we as Kenyan citizens have to step up. Gen Z have shown that they have the mindset and the capacity and ability to actually step up if led properly, to have that done. So it's really up to us to ensure that if you want a better Kenya that is what we want, then we must be ready to number one, make tough choices, by making sure that we choose people who truly reflect where we want to be. Whether that happens is yet to be seen, but I think we have that chance to make that happen. So,
okay, how do we get there? Because the only way we get there is through election. And we have to agree Kenyan election, Chui, you have participated in the Kenyan election, you know that is very expensive. At the end of it all, the voters will listen to whoever has the financial means to campaign and to reach the people and they give something in return, which is much more transaction. And that's why corruption is thriving in Kenya, because any leader who is there wants to maximize, to get contracts, to get money, he could get it legally so that he can come and buy the voters. Apart from Raila, who seems to have enjoyed the success of a goodwill from Kenyan without money, I have not seen any person who will garner that influence without money. Ruto was no popular. Ruto did not have with any goodwill except money. And that's why in his government, they know clearly that they have to do any corruption, they come and pamper the people during the election. So what is the way out that we can have effective leadership to curb corruption without passing through corruption?
I'll say this. Yes, I've been part of the process of politics, and I can tell you money plays a big role. But also in that process, I've also seen that lack of information among the average Kenyan in terms of what issues Kenyan face or Kenyans face as a mwananchi is lacking, and that's why I see this young guy Kebaso, when he comes up and talks about, shows us all those POC projects where they were launched but nothing happens. Does a regular mwananchi understand that piece of it? No. So for me, for that to change and for us to have a meaningful impact in terms of what we want Kenya to be, there has to be a sense of some what you call civic education. Civic education in terms of where people are voting on the basis of issues, not on the basis of what Chui gave me or what Dr. Mande gave me, will make a difference. I would say that poverty is a big issue in Kenya, and creating opportunities where poverty is lessened by having people have jobs, people have opportunities to actually do things that improve their bottom line will make a difference. But to start with the civic education where people understand that if I'm voting for Chui, I'm voting for issues. Chui speaks about issues that affect me as a mwananchi. Chui speaks about how I'm going to actually get out of my bottom line and make a difference. That's the only thing that can make a difference. But then with that, we need all Kenyans, especially Gen Zs, to continue doing what they're doing. But civic education, even amongst the people in mashinani, is first and foremost one of the things that has to be done for us to even make a change in any way, shape, or form. So,
okay. Thank you, Dr. Nim.
I agree with that final closing statements there. Civic education, and when we see leaders in government, we tend to castigate them, we tend to put them down. Yet we are the same exact people who put them in government. And we cannot underestimate what you mentioned there, the power of the purse, the power of money. However, has the money really gets to the people. And if that person is mediocre in terms of leadership, that's what we get. It's a reflection of exactly of who we are. I remember the last elections, Kenyans were told who the current sitting president will be by the person who worked closely with him. And there are several clips going around saying that huyo mwisi ndio tunataka, ametuiba hata roho yetu ameipa. That's the person we want. They went in knowing exactly what they were going to get. But the exact same people are now the people crying foul. So again, civic education, they can get it. But the morality of the people, there's what we call the moral fabric. They can know all these bad things, but they still put the same person in government. Morally and ethically, where are we as a nation? That's the big question that we should be asking ourselves.
And Dr. Mani, just to add on to what Dr. Ndimu said, and this is my last shot, and this is something that I like saying, and I think it makes perfect sense, is to get quality leadership, we must first be quality citizens. That's the only way we can change the dynamics of what we're seeing right now in our country, Kenya.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was nice having you. I think our time is fast running. So your last remark, you can say, so the Ruto-Raila handshake does not have any impact in Kenya's quest for effective leadership. That's what I heard you gentlemen saying, that it does not have any impact. So
we've been there before. Correct. We've been there before. It's just repeating the same old story that we have seen over the last several elections.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will stop here now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken.